to be able to say, look, it's okay for you to bring all the questions you might have. I mean, it would be so naive to think that young people in your college group haven't seen a whole bunch of TikToks that week that are just dismantling Christianity. You need to be able to welcome that question. Toward the end of the book, one thing we haven't really talked about in this episode is that you are a pastor. You pastor a church, and you provide some pastoral words for churches who are wanting to love and encourage people who are struggling with doubt. So what is maybe one action step that Christians can take right now toward this goal of making the church a place that's more hospitable to doubters?
Yeah, I think that we need to listen more. I brought my pastoral team together and asked them to each share one word that they have in this year for people to think about, that they can tack onto, that they would love to live out. And I wanted the pastor to say a word that they would love to see materialize in our church. And the word that I had was listen. And I said, some of you guys just go out and you meet with somebody and you talk the whole time. I said, and then you leave thinking it was a great time, but the person's totally drained that just met with you because they just listened to you talk for an hour. You didn't ask any questions. I said, let's be the kind of church that listens to people's stories, that walks with people in their stories, that gets people to open up. I think that we have to let people know that it's okay to process your doubts with us in a church. But some churches can come across so rigid that people will be scared to bring it up. So what I do every week is I end my message and we have 20 minutes of live Q&A because I want people to ask questions. So I'm in the hot seat for 20 minutes. And I said, you can ask me questions about philosophy, history, your doubts, our culture, marriage, whatever it is. This is your time. And part of the reason for doing that is we're creating a culture that says it's okay for you to ask whatever's on your mind. And when somebody does bring something up that would be church uncomfortable, call it, I just celebrate that moment. And I just look for that because we're trying to create a community that we belong. And I tell people all the time too, we need to realize everybody in our church has arrived through that door, and we've been shaped by mentors, teachers, books, coaches, our pain, our traumas, our addictions. We've all been shaped differently. And to think that somebody could go to a 1-hour membership class and then we can check it off the list and think that they're just like us is really naive.
Yeah.
The culture gets customization everywhere. We customize your order. We customize your cars. We customize your clothes. But the church, the discipleship center called the church, we need to customize discipleship. We need to ask, instead of sending 30 Christians who've been Christians for 30 years through basic Bible study methods for the 15th time, we need to customize and figure out where people are at, hear their stories, and work with them so we know what their wounds are, so we know what their doubts are, so we know where they need to grow theologically. So that is what true shepherding is. And I think when we shepherd the church in this kind of way, it will be a place where people will love to be amongst the herd.
I'm so happy to hear you say that about, well, everything that you just said was great, but especially about the Q&A, because in our deconstruction book, that's exactly what we're telling churches. You've got to start doing a Q&A after your sermons because people need to know that it's okay to ask any question. And it's also okay to know that not every pastor knows every answer. And what a great opportunity, if you don't know the answer, to model the humility to say, you know what, I don't know. Come back next week and I'll have a better answer for you. Or let's invite more discussion on that question. I think that I just hope that more pastors will follow that example of what you're doing because I think it's so crucial, especially right now, Bobby, when everybody has access to social media and so many different opinions, many of which are just like, in the deconstruction hashtag, like propaganda, outright prove demonstrably false information, to be able to say, look, it's okay for you to bring all the questions you might have. I mean, it would be so naive to think that young people in your college group haven't seen a whole bunch of TikToks that week that are just dismantling Christianity. You need to be able to welcome that question like, hey, I saw this TikTok that made
Right.
this claim. How do we process that? And I wonder if, maybe many pastors are intimidated by that idea, but I would just encourage any pastor listening, don't be intimidated. Just try it. And it's okay to say you don't know. And then you can learn along with your congregation if it's something that you don't know the answer to, but at least you can process it together.